My name is Matt. I'm an enrollment advisor on the UX Design Career Accelerator for Kings. And just a few points to note before I introduce our speaker. There's a specific Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Drop any course-related questions in there, and I believe Anna will be able to answer some questions as well with regards to Figma, not me. I'll be sticking around at the end of the class. So yeah, fill me up with loads of questions. I'll be happy to answer any queries that you may have on the program. Besides that, we will share the slides with you following the event. So yeah, now putting the master in Masterclass, please welcome Anna. Enjoy.
Thank you, Matt. That was a very nice welcome. I won't go so far as to say too much of a master, but I hope I will be able to give you guys as much of a little intro to Figma as possible. I'm going to share a little intro from me, and then we'll kick off. So, can everyone see okay? Give me a shout if there's any issues. So who am I? My name's Anna. I have 10 plus years in digital experience in general, starting off in digital marketing, moving on through digital content, and 6 years specifically in UX, which I absolutely love. I am, I guess, what they call a full stack user experience designer, as in I do sort of everything from user research to exploration, working with stakeholders, coming up with ideas, to kind of creating the final products that we hand over to developers to actually build. I used to work at ASOS for many years, so for 4 years as a user experience architect, and then as a product designer, which is just another name for UX UI designer, really. And I now work in the non-profit charity sector and for a larger charity. I'm also a course facilitator for the UX Career Accelerator part-time. And I am also a mum of 2 small people, which means I'm very, very busy. But I love working in UX, so I love sharing that info. So hopefully you'll take away a little bit of the basics to get you started on using and designing with Figma. A little bit about why learning Figma is important in designer, but it won't actually make you a designer. And some of the key things to learn if you want to kind of use Figma and where to go from here. So just to put it in context, the UX designer, what do? We kind of empathize with users. We try and understand them. We then define the problem. So we do research, we do a lot of observation, understanding, and then we kind of come up with ideas of how to solve the problems that we found, making designs and prototypes, and eventually testing those prototypes. And then the cycle kind of continues. We learn from there, refine designs, etc. And Figma kind of comes in here. So it's part of this whole process, which I think can be really helpful. But, you know, it's not the be all and end all. So I like to kind of call it as a tool in the designer's toolbox. It won't make you a mechanic, but will help you do your job. Just like your design tool of choice won't make you a designer, but it will help you do your job. Tools come and go very fast. So there's Figma, there's Sketch, there's Adobe XD, there's InVision, there's Protopie. They all have different pros and cons and uses. I can use probably most of these, but I've been here for quite a long time. When I worked at ASOS, we mostly used Sketch and Adobe XD and Azure, which is quite advanced. But I went off, had a baby, came back, everyone was using Figma. So I had to learn that. And right now it wins. It's an advanced design tool. This is from Raft Labs. It stands out as the designer's choice because it's great for collaboration and remote work. For now, it might change. It won't necessarily be here forever. This is from a trends website that talks about UX trends. It says potentially once AI is smart enough to build ad hoc interfaces, Figma itself, or the designer's role, will become less important. Having said that, right now, it's the tool to beat. Most UX jobs mention Figma in their profile. Sky would like you to have proficiency in Figma. Hootsuite wants expert level of knowledge of Figma. This is another one from Masterclass for just UX designer, strong UX experience using Figma. Most of them will say the same thing. There are various skill levels. I'm not going to go into all of these details. I don't know many people who have all of these advanced things. And it's something that you can learn. You can start with just knowing a couple of things and keep growing and growing. This is from Figma.com community. They have some great resources on there. But what we'll focus on today is in using Figma. So specifically around ideating, defining, refining, and prototyping. So what is that? Ideation, definition, taking scribbles on paper, translating it to a basic design, which we call low fidelity. And the thing is about Figma that I think is one of the reasons why it's so prominent is it's actually really easy. And the learning curve is super duper gentle. Becoming a pro is much harder. There's a lot you can learn, but the starting point, whether you do or don't have any knowledge of design tools, is much easier than something like Illustrator or Photoshop or any of those kind of more old school design tools. So you will start with a sketch, and then you will build some boxes and arrows, really simple things, and then eventually that will turn into a kind of prototype which looks pretty close to the real thing, and you can take that off to be designed and tested. So basically, I'm going to kind of show you how to do that in the space of about 45 minutes. So let's go. I'm going to stop this share and share a different screen now. Okay, so for this demonstration, I'm going to show you on the free version of Figma. So for my work, I do have the paid for version of Figma, but I thought for this demonstration, it'd be really useful to just show you in the free version, just so you can see that most things that you can do are able to be done in the free version. So how you would start, you open up Figma. This is the desktop app. You can do it online as well, but downloading the desktop app, I think, just makes life a lot easier. And then you can just open up a design file. And I'm going to just start by showing you kind of how we would even begin, some of the very basics. So start with ideation. So you've got some sketches, you've got this idea, you've come up with this idea, and you want to kind of make it into something which is not on paper. You don't want to use Paint, you don't want to use Adobe Photoshop. So Figma is perfect. So let's start. If we start with a screen, the first thing I'd probably do, and I will just do this very quickly because I want to try and give you as much of an overview as possible, is kind of organize the content. So I might have a look here and be like, all right, okay, so I'm going to start with just writing. This is a T for text. This is where your kind of key tools are. And I'm going to use a shortcut because that tends to be what we do most of. And I'm going to make this a bit bigger so you can see. I'm going to write the top things in the content. So what have we got in here? We've got a logo. I'm going to make this a bit bigger. There we go. Let's have a look. So I've got this logo here. And then what have we got next? I've just copied and pasted that. I've got this kind of messaging button. I'm going to separate these out. What else have I got here? Copy and paste. I'm doing shortcuts for copy and paste, which are the same as in most programs. I've got this sharing or action button here. Okay, let's write this down. Let's see, I've got this update section I've created. You may recognize the app as one that some people commonly use. I did not invent it. I thought it was a useful task to use something we know and love or hate, depending on your point of view. Here is a updates feed, let's say. And then, okay, we've got another kind of feed. I'm going to call this my feed. And within my feed, I've got some kind of image. And I've got some other buttons which we can kind of define later. So like button, share button, etc., etc. Okay. Oh, no comments. We won't spend too long doing this because we could be here all day. So, okay, so I'll start by defining the content. I'm just going to do one screen because we're not going to go into all of those. And then I'm going to start creating it. So this is where we kick off here. I'll just have a little run through. This is your kind of moving area, so you can move and scale things. Generally, you kind of default to move. Just click on something, move it around. But if you want to kind of expand it, you can also just scale it like that. This is the frame section. So this is the most commonly used. A frame is like an artboard. If you've ever used any other design tools before, and that's the next thing we're going to use. This is where our shapes are. Generally, you kind of get used to doing shortcuts for these, so you don't use this as much. This is our pen and pencil tool, which I will very briefly show you how to use later. This is for creating actual designs you can sort of do yourself. Text box, which is where you just create text. The shortcut is T, but in case you're wondering. And then these things like components, plugins, widgets. These are slightly more advanced, but I will show you a little bit of how you might create those in there. This is a move tool, and this is a comment tool. So if you were collaborating, you could put a comment and be like, great sketch. There we go. No one would ever say that. So there we go. So that's a comment. So let's go back to creating a frame. So the frames, if you click on frame here, you get a series of essentially screens. So phone screens, tablet, desktop, presentation, watch, paper, etc. Generally, when we're designing, we tend to try and go for the smallest realistic screen. So 320 is the smallest. They're not actually used that much anymore. They're a very small percentage. But we want to go pretty small because it's much easier to design from a really small one to get bigger. So 375 generally tends to be a kind of industry standard of using when you're sort of designing mobile first. So we'll kick off with that one. So I've clicked on that and I'm just selecting it and moving it around. And I am going to start with super duper simple boxes and arrows. So I want to kind of create a space for this logo. Now let's have a look at my image. There we go. I've got a logo and some buttons. So I want to create a rectangle. Now I could go in here and I could set this, or I could just click R and make my little box there. And I'm going to give it a little label and call it a logo. And I'm going to change the size of this. So over here, this is where you can kind of play with the things you've got. So over here, you've got a list of everything that's kind of on your screen. Here, you've got the element that you're sort of adjusting, all the things you can do to it here. And then over here at the top is kind of your functions that you can do. So I'm going to make this a bit smaller because this is a bit ginormous. And I'm going to make it a size 20. And there we go. We now know that's a logo box. I'm kind of starting out with my layout. And I might group these together. So what I'll do is I'll select this. I'll hold like Shift or I don't remember how you use a Windows, but control, whatever you use to select on a Windows. And you group the two together and you can press Control G and that groups them together. So now I can kind of move them around as one. There we go. So there we go. That's my little logo area. And then I'm going to just create a couple of little placeholders for these buttons. There we go. A couple of little placeholders. Let's start with that. Super rough. This is how we start. Nothing fancy. There we go. So we've got this messaging button, action button, brilliant. And then I've got this updates feed. I'm just going to go around and make it circular just because why not? And so I've created this circle. And again, what I've done is I've used a shortcut, but you can go in and go ellipse. I'm just used to using O. And even though Figma is really amazing for helping you sort of click things together and make things aligned, sometimes you just want to go in and make sure it's sort of equal. So I actually really like using the sort of the numbers. So I'll just make sure it's like aligned inside. So I might make it 60 width, 60 height. And then if I wanted to change that, this is a little lock button that means if I then decided actually I wanted to make this 70, I've constrained the proportion. So that means these two will change at the same time. So there we go. Let's pop some of these. This is a bit more specific to making it a bit prettier, which is not what we're doing here, but just for the sake of time and seeing how we go. There we go. There's boxes and arrows. So that's my kind of updates feed. Maybe I should give it a label. So I'm selecting all of these things again. I'm going to group them just for tidiness. Updates feed, and then again, so I would create an image, something we do. Again, I'm using R to sort of show an image in a wireframe is sometimes just put these kind of crosses across. So again, this is L, shortcut L there. Just kind of, oops, sorry, pen. What are you doing? Sometimes I do that by accident. Let's get out of here. Let's get back to there. And then, okay, so that's my my feed. So I've got these buttons. This is kind of starting to look a little bit like that. And that's kind of how we do the basics. I'm not going to do any more of that because you know how to draw boxes and arrows. And if you want to start off and you just want to kind of build something from a sketch, that's how you start. So we move on. So the next phase, I'll just make sure I've covered all of those. Yeah, we go. Label those boxes, make some notes. Brilliant. Okay, the next phase is kind of defining it a little bit more. So when you're kind of designing a bit in a bit more detail, you want to make it a bit neater. You want to sort of make sure you're covering all those things. Once you've got an idea, you might want to look at some other apps, figure out that you have everything within the wireframe that you need to have. So I kind of made, this is like a version I made earlier of a very low fidelity wireframe of what I was doing up there. So I put in these comments, I put in all the bits, and I've sort of broken it down into like chunks. So I've got a header, I've got these stories or dailies, whatever you want to call them. And then I've got this feed, so I've made it big. And then within that, you've got this feed item, which repeats. And then I've kind of, again, broken it down. There's this thing called atomic design, which kind of refers to things as atoms and molecules, etc. And that can really help you build out your designs. But we also want to start thinking, well, okay, we're not going to just write boxes, notifications, and messages. We're going to kind of get some icons and use those. So I downloaded these because it makes my life easier. And I downloaded it from a website called the Noun Project, which is thenounproject.com or something. It's a free download service. You can download them SVG, and then you just have these amazing tools you can use. They have everything you need. And as long as you're not using it kind of commercially, it's absolutely free to use. Brilliant. Or, you know, if you fancy it, you can make one yourself. So this sort of notifications icon. So I have an idea. I don't want to use any of those. So I'm going to create one myself here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to take my pen. And this is how you kind of create a very simple kind of vector drawing. If you really want to do one yourself, you click, 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 click. Easy peasy. Now, easy things to get, things that when I first started, I used to do a lot of was, I'll show you, is I used to do this. I used to drag. And then when you drag, you kind of, it's like, what's going on here? Well, this is not working. So don't drag, click, let go, click. That's how you do straight lines. If you then want to make a curvy line, you click on this one, and then when you're doing this, you kind of, you sort of give it a little, you can click on it again, and then you can make these, you can smoosh them around. I think I've got some weird setting going on. Hold on. There we go. Look where that's gone. Let's see that. And then that's being strange. But you can make a curvy line too. For some reason, it is not doing it with my with this, because You can make curvy lines, I promise. So the thing is, so as you can see, as I was going, the Figma was really like trying to help me out by like kind of making it aligned. So as I was going and I was doing things in weird shapes, it sort of clicks to the bit you kind of want it to be in, to make it sort of as kind of clear as possible. It might be because it's got but yeah, that's a simple kind of share button. And then the nice thing about a vector is that the more you can make it as huge as you want, it will never pixelate, which is magical. So there we go. Let's make it a little one. So let's just, and we can change this slightly. So I've selected it and I kind of curve it around, and I'm going to make it a bit thicker. So I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to increase the stroke. The stroke is essentially the border or the kind of line. So I can make it a fat stroke like so. It's pretty nice. And I can get that and I'll like put it with my little friends over here. And here's another icon I made, which is a bunch of circles. And what I can do with this now as well is if I wanted to, I could add it to my component library, which then I can give it a name of my little notifications icon. And now it's in my component library. So if I'm like working on something somewhere else, anywhere, I can just go, cool, I'm just going to grab this notifications icon and put it here. I don't have to go and find it around my board. I don't have to find it anywhere. It's just sort of sitting there. So there you go. Download or make them. If you're really into vectors, if you like the idea of making vectors, there are lots and lots of kind of tutorials specifically around kind of creating them and curvature and all sorts, which doesn't seem to be working for me today for some strange reason. But the nice thing as well, actually, like if you have this noun project font, for example, and you're like, I don't know about this heart, I feel like it's not quite right, you could edit it. So you could be like, all right, I'm just going to get this little point and I'm going to kind of mess around with it a bit, and you know, do weird things with it if I want to. Or you could fill it with color. You could make it a full black heart. So I've pressed B there as a shortcut for filling it. Apparently there's a paint bucket tool. If anyone can find it, let me know, because I can't. So I just use the shortcut of B, and that does the same thing. This is one of those things I had to look up once upon a time, because I was like, how do I fill this? So yeah. So there we go. So we've got these kind of different notifications. So then the next thing I will do, and I'm gonna delete this so I can show you how to do it. There we go. Is I'm gonna create these little chunks. How are we doing for time? Good. All right. So I'm going to create little frames. Now I don't have my frame doesn't have to be the whole thing. And something that is quite nice to do is to create the different sections of your page. It depends how you think. You might want to kind of go whole hog on this was 375, wasn't it? There we go. On designing a whole page, or you might want to kind of do it in sections. It depends what's sort of easier, but I'm going to do it in sections. So I'm just going to copy and pasting here. You see, Figma is really trying to help me out here. It's really putting in those lines, making sure I'm aligned. I'm not doing that. It's Figma helping me out. It's very friendly that way. So what I want to do is, so I've got this this kind of header here. So I can define the header now. So I'm just going to put my logo in there again. I'll replace this shortly, but now I kind of know that I want kind of notifications and messages there, for example. So I'm going to copy and paste that in. Or I could add in components like I did earlier. So let's do that one. Here we go. I've already got that one in. So local components. Yeah, that one was a messaging one. So yeah, let's do that one instead. There we go. So yeah, I could do messaging in there, or I could add another component. I could do hearts, for example. I'm going to do slightly different ones, but just for showcasing. And I want to like make sure these are the right size. So I'm going to line them up. So I'm going to do 40. It's about the right size. And this one's going to be a width of 40 as well. Okay. There we go. Actually, I think I'll make these the same height. That looks weird. So Let's make this a height of 40 so they line up. There we go. That looks better. There we go. Okay. It actually still looks weird. There we go. There we go. So what we can do here is we can kind of set these to be as they are. So this is now kind of a very, very basic header. They're all lined up nicely. And I can kind of keep these defined together. And if I go and want to create a bunch of headers, I've already got my kind of header laid out. And so then we've got this story feed. Now, this is kind of where I want to show you another piece of simple functionality. So I'm going to create this circle. Let's make it nice and clean, 60, 60. Let's copy this. Let's do, it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to show you how Figma is your best friend and it will make it perfect for you. So I'm just going to put in a bunch of these circles. There we go. And there's a reason why I'm doing these off the screen, which I will get to soon. Now, what you can do, what Figma is very sweet and kind to you, select all these things, you're like, oh, they're all over the place. So up here, you've got these alignment tools. So you can align them either to, so they will line up at the top, in the middle, or on the bottom. Let's do middle. They're all similar sizes, or are they? No, they're all similar sizes. And you can also distribute them. So let's distribute them horizontally so they're all together. Why are you over there? Don't go over there. Let's get one here. You're not meant to be there either. There we go. Maybe I think I copied some that weren't. There we go. Let's make sure these are all here, and then let's get rid of these extra ones. Okay. Come here, my little friends. This is why we group them. There we go. They're all in a group. Okay, let's distribute even horizontal spaces. Let's align them nicely. There we go. Why this one is all off tangent. And then the other thing that you can do is these are the sections. So you can create something called an auto layout. So rather than me kind of going, all right, I'm just gonna fiddle with this and make sure they're all aligned one after the other and checking them, I'm gonna go in and select them all of my ones in this group, and I'm gonna add an auto layout. So I right click on it and I add auto layout. And then what this does it means that I can change the space between them to one like 20, and it will change all of the spaces between them. And then the other thing that you kind of want to do, and I haven't done it on these ones, but I will in a minute, is when you're starting out a kind of a more specifically sort of designed UI file, you want to set up some grids to make sure everything kind of aligns together. So this is where you set up a grid. So this is my screen page. I'm going to do a layout grid. I'm not going to do 10 pixels. I'm going to do 4 pixels, which is really tiny, but there's a reason for that. 4 is a really great number to divide by, and you'll see that when we go in and I want to look in detail, I'm like, it makes it easier to divide things by 4. And then I'm not going to have this, so I press plus again. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to change this from grid to columns. And I'm going to set this as a 6 column. I'm going to add a margin. And so now I've kind of got this sort of definition here. And I can, oops, don't want to do that. There we go. So I can make this, I can actually add this thing to a grid style. So I'm going to call this my Masterclass style. There we go. And then I can add it to my other pages as well. So layout grid, let's go for Masterclass style. So now I've got that there too. I've got it here too, so I can add that one there. I'm going plus, going to select this Masterclass style, which I've set up, and now I can make sure these kind of align to the edges here as well. There we go. That's nice. This kind of, that's already magically started off there. And then we can go into my next section, which is this kind of feed item. So I might just copy this across just for speed, and then we can edit it to make it a little bit more refined. So there we go. So it starts with a person's name. So we're actually going to do this full width. So I'm going to do it all across, but I'm going to line up this person's name here. And I'm going to separate these out. So I'm going to start thinking about how am I going to make these look a bit more stylistically nice? So I might start adding some bolding here, change the sizing, start kind of playing around with the designs here a little bit. So this is my comments, and maybe this is not how I want it to look. Maybe I want to put my name. So let's put Anna here. And actually, another thing I want to do here is put in an image. So I'm going to start putting in an image here. I'm going to define the size of that. There we go. It's my name. There we go. And then I'm going to put Anna, and then I'm going to put my comment next to my name. Cool. And what I'm using here is lorem ipsum text, which is what you use when you basically don't want to have to think of something to say. You can copy and paste a bunch of lorem ipsum text just to fill in the space for making some text. So we can build out this section a bit more. We can start adding in these buttons, and I'm gonna add in these for speed's sake, and I'm gonna put them in here. And again, I'm gonna start there we go. I'm just selecting and moving things. And I'm gonna select all of them. I'm gonna make them a little bit smaller. There we go. So they're all nice and aligned. And I am going to create this sort of auto layout again. So I'm going to add auto layout, right click. And again, I can kind of define what the size is between them. So 16 is a really good one. There's that sort of divisible by 4 thing again. It just kind of adds to that cleanliness. And the nice thing about this is once I've got this in here, if I wanted to add, say, another component in the same kind of size, this is 31. Oh, that's an ugly size. Let's make it nice and even. That's 31. If I wanted to add another component in here, and I'm just going to make this the right size. So, oops, no, don't want to do that. Constrain proportions. It's always good when you make mistakes live because people are like, oh, that's what not to do. And that stroke now looks way too big. So let's make that a lot smaller. Where have you gone? There we are. Let's make that a stroke of 2. That's much better. Hello. Got this cute little border now. What's going on there? Where'd it come from? So now if we wanted to put that in there, I could just kind of slot that in here and it would slot in amongst these, and it would automatically have the right spacing between them. I could replace it with a different one, and I don't have to sit here and fiddle around with all the different sizes and things. So that's kind of how you would you could add in a little component there. And then from that, so you've got your sort of sections, you go through and you kind of add each individual section, and that kind of starts to make what's starting to look like a bit more of a kind of, we call it a mid-fidelity wireframe, where you're a bit more defined. You've got a bit of definition here around kind of the sizing, the spacing is a bit cleaner. And I've got quite a lot of auto layouts in here, as you can see. So this one's got an auto layout within the text. So the auto layout here is saying how much definition there is between here. It's showing this, there's a nice clarity between here and here. So I can do a lot of changing. I've got this whole thing is together here. So I've got the buffers on either side. And if I showed you, I've hidden these layout grids here, but if I turn them on, you can see how that's kind of all aligned to the layout grid here. Okay. So that's kind of step 2, defining. And then we kind of go into refining. So this would be where you kind of build out a bit more of a style guide. you can add a logo, you can add some colors, and I'm going to kind of show you how to do some of these key things. So I've made up a logo here. Obviously, this is an app I've invented called My Face app, and I've picked some colors here. And I'm going to show you how to do this gradient. So we've got, I picked these two colors, and I think within my app, I need to create this like a gradient effect. So I'm going to create a square. And within my square, I'm going to select this fill button here. Now, I've already, because the Figma is very nice and very clever, it's already kind of populated these document colors. But if I didn't have these and I had the colors somewhere else, the other thing you can do, which is really, really cool, and this was a component of Sketch as well, is this color picker tool. So I can go anywhere on here and go, I want this color, and it will select that color. But I want to make a gradient between those two. So I'm going to go across from solid, and I'm going to go to gradient, and I'm going to select this bottom bit, which is here. And at the moment, it's down as it's showing like an opacity of 0. So I'm going to put that back there, and I'm going to select this color. So now that's how you kind of create a really simple gradient effect from one to the other. And yeah, you can do it with going to black, or you could do it if I wanted to kind of make it disappear. You can reduce the opacity, and that's the kind of simple one there. And then in my kind of style guide, I've defined a few things. I've defined my font, I've defined some navigation colors. It's a bit more designy. And the other thing I've done is kind of define some of these headings. So what you can do when you're going in and kind of defining your text and things, you can select, you can create some desired headings, and then you might want to, I'm going to trash this one. You might want to create some text styles. So just like I created the style previously for, what did I create the style for? For the grids, you can create some text styles as well. And this will really help with keeping things consistent. So I've already got a few here. And I've got this Helvetica New bold 18, and I'm going to go and make this a text style so that when I go on to my designs later, when I'm creating loads and loads of new screens, I can pick a specific style. I don't have to go through and be like, which one was it? What did I use there? And then it really helps for developers, because this is basically how developers work. Let's call this heading Masterclass heading 3. So I've created the style there. And now if I went into anywhere here and I wanted to make sure that I'd done the right thing, I could be like, oh, actually, I want this instead of in Jill's set. See, this is actually in the wrong one, which is great. So instead of that, instead of like going in and going, oh, I think I want it Helvetica 19, I can go in here and go, actually, I want this as Masterclass heading 3, for example. And whereas this one's going to be Masterclass heading 1, for example. So text styles are really, really useful. And then I've got my icons, like as I showed you earlier. I've added some more in. It's really useful to have an area in your Figma file to just put all your icons, all the things you're using, so you don't have to go and re-upload them every time. And then you might want to add them to components. So what I've done with this one is these are 2 variants of the same thing, which I'm going to do a similar thing with this. So we can make this into a component just like before. So we can go create component. And then when you've got that component, you could add a variant. So this is still something you can do in the free version. There are certain things you can't do with these variants. So in the paid for version, you can actually do prototyping, changing from one variant to the other. You can't do that in the free version, but it's good to know that you can still kind of create these. So that could be my first variant, and then I could essentially kind of copy and paste that and make, I could make a new variant. Where's my variant? Yeah, so I could do another variant, and I could define, so I could fill that and change it and make a bunch of various variants, which I could then use. One would be a selected state, one could be a different state. How are we doing for time? We're doing very close for time. So I'm going to just quickly show you a few other kind of key bits and then show you how to do a tiny bit of prototyping, and then we will, you can ask loads of questions or no questions, it's up to you. So, okay, so we went from low fidelity, we did these boxes and arrows, we kind of made it a bit more defined, we added some grids and things, and now we kind of go to high fidelity, which is essentially just adding images and colors, checking on the spacing, making sure it sort of looks kind of perfect. I've added in my logo here, I added through a few variants, because I defined my colors in the style guide, I added a few colors in there. I think one thing that I really, really love about Figma is that, I don't know if any of you have worked in design stuff, but you spend a lot of time faffing around with masks and things. It's kind of default. So if I make a square here and I'm like, okay, I want to add a picture in there. So to add a picture, you go place, file, place image. And I'm going to pick one of these ones I did. Something highly relevant. Let's do this one. And I just pop it in there. It just magically masks it for me, which I think is brilliant. And it would do exactly the same here. If I'm like, okay, I want to place an image in here with within my circle. I will just choose one, and I'm going to choose my another one of these random pictures. This is me in a hat. I'm going to put it in the circle, and it masks it for me. It's so easy. Like I said, Figma's really easy. And that's pretty much all I've done here. And the only other thing I've done here is I've added that gradient I showed you, but I've made it into a circle behind here. So I've got my circles ready. I put the picture in. I've created another circle. Let's look at the size of this one. I want to make it a bit bigger. This one is 60 by 60. This one is going to be, let's try 64 by 64. So we give it a little bit of white space around it. As you can see, it's behind there. So we're going to pop it behind. There we go. Let's make it a bit bigger. Let's go 66 by 66. And then we can just do that gradient treatment again here. So I'm going to do my gradient. I'm going to go pink at the top, orange at the bottom, no, pink at the top, click, orange at the bottom, opacity, what you're doing to me. Let's go 100% here. There we go. And that's it. And that's it. Actually, I'm going to make it a bit bigger so we've got a bit of white, because that's actually, we don't want that in there actually, because I'm going to change this slightly. We want, if you look here, it's got this little bit of white space around it. So actually, I don't want to do that in there. I'm going to do that in the stroke. Let's do that again. Pink, and then bottom bit orange. Lovely jubbly, opacity 100%, sweet. And then I'm going to make the inside just white all the way across. And then I'm going to make the stroke a bit thicker, otherwise you can't really see the size of it. Let's go for a 4. No, let's go for a 2. Whoops. Let's go for a 2. There we go. Beautiful. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And then you can do the same. You add little circles. You can zoom in and zoom out. It's super easy. So just before we move on, I think the key thing is to kind of show you how to prototype. So, well, this is all we've done. We've done from basic boxes. We're going to have basically a version of my face, which is singing and dancing. So here you've got the design tab. Here you've got the prototype tab. I'm going to go in and I am going to go into prototype. And I have created these 2 frames. So one is, this is the main frame, this is another frame. And the really key thing to note about these 2 frames, so I'm going to take this out for you to show you, is this is a separate frame. Now here, if it's next to this frame, they are 2 separate frames. If I put it back in this frame here, the fact that all this goes out is really important. but also it becomes a frame which has a parent frame. And the reason this is important is when you go from here to prototype and you're kind of defining this whole thing, you don't have to do anything. This is already set. This will just exist. This position as default is scroll with parent, or you could have it as fixed. You could have it sticky. It's not that many options. The only thing I've changed here is I've made it scrolling horizontal so that when I scroll down here, this one can scroll that way. And then the only other thing I'm going to do is prototype this bit. And I'm going to delete this so I can do it for you live and hope it works. Right. So I'm going to select this button and I'm in prototype. And when you're in prototype, you hover over this. And then you get this option that pops up, which is on tap navigate to. Now, I don't want to navigate to this specifically because it's not a separate screen. This is my an overlay. So it's one of the options. I'm going to do open overlay. And then I've got some settings. So more info goes into the overlay is going to be instant. I could do it dissolve or move in, but I'm doing instant. It's defaulted this bottom center for me. I'm going to have this selection of close when clicking inside. I'm going to add a background. So this will put a background on this page here so that it kind of covers up like a natural overlay, but you can play around with this. And those are the only kind of two key things I will do. And I will just show you here. Cool, here is our app. So this is our app. When we click on that, it works, it opens an overlay. If we click outside of it, it closes. And this scrolls separately this way if I want to go this way, but it also scrolls with it. So it's not sticking in place when you go through to it. There are loads and loads of things you can do. Some of them require a bit more plugins, a few more variables. But just for a basic kind of clicky thing, it's perfect. It does the job absolutely perfectly. And then I just want to maybe show you a slight variant on that. So if I wanted to maybe instead of that being an instant, I might want to like move in gently. I'm going to move in up, let's say. I'm not going to necessarily do it. And I'm going to make it like nice and slow, 500 milliseconds. Let's just see how that would look. And you don't have to open it in the whole screen. So you have these two options here. You can either present it or you can just preview, which is on your screen. So when you're playing around, you don't have to keep going backwards and forwards. And I'm going to see how that works. So instead of it opening, it's going to move in slowly with that sort of slow delay, which actually feels quite nice and feels quite natural. And you can kind of see when you're looking at apps, which kind of ones mirror the experience quite closely to what you're creating. So let's get rid of that one. Just a final point when you're prototyping, if you don't have this device set, it's not always set as a default, there might be none. So then if there was none set, just one of those things that tends to happen, then you tend to go on and then you're like, oh, this isn't great, like this is not working very well for me, why is this cutting off? So when you're actually going into, depending on what device you've designed for, you can select this iPhone here, and you can change like how it looks. I don't want the iPhone mini, do I? I want 8. And you can make it shiny and gold, make it space gray. Yeah, you can sort of define this, which makes it quite nice for presentations. And I think I'm gonna leave it there and go back to my other screen. Pause share. Stop share. And then go back to here. And there's literally not much in here apart from, yeah, this is what we kind of did. We went from really lower fidelity wireframes to mid, higher fidelity, and then a prototype. And that's a very whirlwind tour of some of the things you can do in Figma. There are a lot more if you kind of want to delve in. There's millions and millions of classes online. Figma.com is fantastic. YouTube is brilliant for Figma tutorials, tips and tricks, and obviously courses And I've got to have a quote from a kid's book because I have 2 kids. So this is from Zog. Now that you've been shown, you can practice on your own. And then you'll have lots of questions, and then you can know what to Google, which is half the battle. So that's it. Any questions, or I'll pass over to Matt or Sam. Let me have a look. Well, that's a good question. So I've got an answer here from Claire, which I'm happy to answer, which is, thanks for sharing. What version of the Figma do you expect to show in a portfolio? Oh, that's a really, really good question. So I would say, I think you'd probably want to show mid. You don't really need to show lower ones. I think sometimes it's nice to show sort of sketches, or if you've got lots of ideas that you worked with before you kind of settled on an idea and you work with them on Figma, then sure, show loads of those with lots of annotations, show lower fidelity ones in portfolio. But other than that, I think mid and high to show the progression in your portfolio is probably the best the best bet. But yeah, you could show any element. If you only worked on the low fidelity and then passed it on to someone, or you just had some ideas, you can also show those, but it's obviously going to be a bit more, if you can get them to mid fidelity, it's pretty easy. Well, I say that you can make it easy enough to kind of show those off. Any other questions?
I think that's it for now. But yeah, Anna, that was amazing. And I cannot
Whirlwind.
believe, no, I cannot believe you've just created a completely hypothetical, potentially world-changing photo sharing platform in 45 minutes off the top of your head.
Off the top
Genius.
of my head. I know, right?
We should really develop this. No, but that was awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned paint at the beginning and got me all nostalgic because I used to love paint. I think that was the only thing we had on the computer. And maybe I could be a UX designer now you mentioned this.
Oh, anyone
Such
can.
beautiful circles. Yeah, no, that was brilliant. I want to play around with it because honestly, every time I've been on it before, I click around and yeah, I don't get anywhere. But yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you.
Perfect. But yeah, has anybody got any more program related or any program related questions? I can see from the audience that I've actually spoken to most of you here. Happy to answer anything else that may pop up. I know we've got 5 minutes left. Don't think there's anybody else new in the audience, but yeah. I guess a little bit of a brief overview at the moment. We are about 2 weeks away from the start date. We're starting on the 29th of January. We're getting to being full, but there obviously are some spaces left. If you want to talk about it properly, I believe, yeah, there we are. I think Sam's posted the brochure in the chat. So have a look at that and then book a call in with me or another one of my colleagues so we can actually have a longer chat and go through the actual specifics. If we've spoken before and you still want to talk about things prior to the course, or if you've not fully decided yet, feel free to book another call and or drop me an email as well, and we can chat about it. Points to note, I think from this probably specifically would talk about mainly the portfolio that we're building. There are a couple of different ways that we build the portfolio throughout the Career Accelerator. Obviously, we want to give you the best portfolio that we can for you then to go forward and then to showcase that to potential future employers. But mainly, I think what's super exciting is the live employer project at the end. So if you don't know too much about it, we do place you in a team of around 4 or 5 people, including yourself, and you are briefed with one of our employee partners to then, over the final 6 weeks of the program, do a project that's actually live, work on a proper project that for this upcoming cohort, it's Dentsu. If you've not heard of them, they're one of the largest PR advertising marketing agencies in the world. So they're a pretty big name. So you can imagine what their clients are like. They will brief you over the final 6 weeks. You'll then go away and actually go through that whole design process on a real either a real product or a real company where I believe you'll actually have to be redesigning a landing page or a platform of a very big name company, so it's going to look really lovely at the front of your portfolio, and everything else that you'll have done throughout the first 3 modules will then follow that behind it. So we want to pack it out and give you as much as possible. Besides that, if you didn't already know, the course is 6 months long, and I'd say it is pretty intense. It's made to be intense. Nothing without effort was our old school motto in Latin, which I won't say. But yeah, we want to equip you with I guess, the best skills and the best means to go forward. It's actually Nilsson Labore, I think, to go forward and actually get that career that you actually want. So yeah, we asked for around 18 hours per week on average, a little bit more, a little bit less some weeks, but very doable. We're finding that students are being able to do it on top of full-time work, so not a problem there. We've got like loads of layers of support that we offer as well, in terms of like flexibility, motivation, time planning, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, as I say, I think in the brochure there should be a meeting booking to chat with one of us advisors. I'd love to chat with you, even if we've already chatted. So yeah, feel free to reach out. I know we've got 2 minutes left. I don't know if I should. Okay, I've got a question. Lovely. How long will it take for a beginner to learn Figma to an industry level? Ooh, wow, that's not a question for me, Anna.
So it's a really good question. And I think to start off with, it doesn't take that long. It's a bit like, I don't know, it's to get to a beginner level or to get to, an industry level. I think, I mean, the previous course attendants, they kind of did it on while they were going in it. And once you've got the basics, it doesn't actually take that long. Figma itself is not that difficult to learn. There are a lot of tips and tricks that I think if you were sitting there and watching all the videos and learning them online and doing it by yourself, I mean, you could do it all in a few days. But a lot of the things you learn are kind of things you learn on the job, things you learn from other people. Yeah, it's a really hard question to answer. It's like how long is a piece of string? I think to actually learn Figma, you could watch a 2-hour course on YouTube or something, and you would know the basics of Figma and you would know how to use it. And then you would have to practice it. Because knowing how to use it and then kind of like, once you start practicing, you have all these questions and you might be like, how do I do this? And you'd have to keep referring back. So I think to learn it, not very long. To actually get good at it and to have those shortcuts in the back of your mind and know what to check and be able to like understand the different variables, I think that just comes with time and practice. And I think, yeah, something like, I know related to the course, for example, we do a bit of an intro to Figma, but a lot of the guys kind of go off and learn Figma and then they get a lot of practice using it. So actually, to be honest, by the end of the course, they're really good. They're pros. Yeah, I think that answers the question.
Amazing. No, thank you, anonymous attendee. But yeah, I think we're done. Do we wrap it up here? If there's no other questions. Awesome. Yeah, you'll get sent the recording and the slides, so you can just keep going over this again. Thanks, Anna. Appreciate it a lot. Good to see you all, and yeah. See you next time.
Thanks, Matt.
Ciao, ciao.